ecosystem is an area in which all the living organisms and non-living factors interact. They're complex systems where plants, animals, geography, weather and climate, bacteria, soil chemistry, water chemistry all influence each other. So how do you measure how well an ecosystem's doing? How can you tell if an ecosystem's healthy or not? To help us answer those questions is Park Ranger Troy Evans. He's a plant ecologist at the Great Smoky Mountains, and he's been learning a lot about the ecosystem here. Troy, thanks for joining me.
Hi, happy to be here.
So, first question. Who are the most important producers in the Great Smoky Mountains?
Here, located in the southeast, we're a park that is dominated by forest. And so really our biggest producers are trees. Our park is about 98% forested. So that's where we focus a lot of our time and energy.
What kind of trees live in the Great Smokies?
Well, we're mostly in broadleaf deciduous here.
Okay. So what does that mean?
So that means we have trees that tend to lose their leaves in the fall and grow back in the spring. But we're also tall enough that we get an evergreen dominant forest. So we get firs and spruces and pines at a high elevation that keep their needles year round.
How do you keep track of the health of these trees?
That's a great question. We run a long-term monitoring process here, and for that we choose certain areas in the park called plots, where we will take a lot of measurements on tree health and size and species, and then we'll come back to these through time to see which trees are doing good, which ones are not, which ones have died, what's growing in. We take a look at all vegetation in the plot. And so that's everything from the big trees down to the shrubs and saplings, down to the seedlings, and down to the plants that grow on the forest floor. And then we even track the deadwood that comes down. So that's the other part of this is knowing that trees, when they fall, they put a lot of nutrients back into the soil. So we track how much deadwood's on the ground. A lot of vegetation science is pretty low tech. Our plots are remote, and they're in places that we have to go a long ways to get to. And so we try to travel light. And these are the same techniques that foresters have been using for a century, and they've always worked really well. So we like using those.
But of course, producers aren't the only things in the ecosystem, there's consumers too. So I'm with Ranger Becky Nichols, who is an entomologist studying the insects in the park. What kind of insects do you study here in the Great Smokies?
Well, I primarily study aquatic insects. And so when we're looking at stream quality, there's three main groups that we look for, and those include the mayflies, the stoneflies, and caddisflies. What we do is we look at the diversity and abundance from year to year. And so they're considered quite sensitive to any changes in the aquatic environment. And so if their numbers decline from year to year, then we will go back to that area and take a closer look to see if we can figure out what might be happening. Every year we go to the same site, and we have established sites where we sample in the same stretch of stream every year. And we collect the same type of data in the same way. And we're looking at the number of species in each one of those groups that I mentioned. And there are hundreds of species in those groups. So we do the identifications in the laboratory after we collect them, and then we tally up the number of species and compare that to years prior. But also we're looking at any changes in the environment, such as siltation, sedimentation, and temperature, water temperature also, stream flow, water levels, all of those things can impact the aquatic community.
Okay, so I could do this at home myself too.
You could take an inventory of what you have in your own backyard, and you can make a judgment as to how healthy the stream is.
Well, Ranger Becky, thanks for showing me how you understand all the different parts of this ecosystem.
You're welcome.
One of the best parts about studying ecosystems is that you don't really need a ton of fancy equipment to get started. You can just look what's going on in your backyard or maybe at your local park. And there's awesome citizen science programs where you can upload your data and observations to help with studies across the country. So get outside, check out your local ecosystem, see what's going on near you. Want to learn more about our national parks? Then hit that subscribe button, friend. Stay up to date and catch bonus features by following us on Instagram @OutSCIder.